Hello everyone. Hello Dr. Craig. I am Rosinmi Esquilidgid and I am here to discuss to you the topic that I have learned from the chapter 1, Summative Assessment 1, Planning and Implementing Classroom Tests. Summative assessment is used to document the student's performance. So there are plans in doing the summative assessment. The first is in constructing classroom SA is to review the criteria for high quality assessment. So these are the following questions that we need to consider when we are planning summative assessment. First, are there clear and appropriate learning targets? What method of assessment is the best match? Third, will the evidence allow valid inferences? Fourth, how can error be minimized? Fifth, will the assessment be fair and unbiased? Six, have students had the opportunity to learn what is being assessed? Seventh, will the assessment be practical and efficient? And 8, will the assessment be aligned with instruction? And the ninth is, are there consequences of the assessments positive? So, in sampling from a domain to obtain test, domain of knowledge, 6-week unit on insects. The sample is the 30-item unit test. So the use of assessment blueprint. So this is also one of how to plan a summative assessment. So the assessment blueprint is the table that lays out curricular aims and the thinking skills expected of students. So an assessment blueprint can be used to determine a representative sample. It is a set of specifications that indicates what students are responsible for learning. So teachers need to examine the blueprint to see how the sampling came out. So there can be a tendency to oversample areas the teacher particularly likes and include mostly questions about simple facts. So there are easy yes to right. So this is useful when developing a plan for a test. So assessment blueprint is one of the useful plan in developing a summative assessment. So this is an example of a well-balanced test blueprint for items on assessment of experimental design. So the number and length of assessment is also one of the planning on how to make a summative assessment. So the next step is to determine how many separate assessments will be given. Second, how long each one will be. So there are several factors that we are need to be consider. So the age of the students, the length of classes, and the types of questions. So we cannot give a long examinations to elementary students. So we need also to consider our students and also their capacity and their knowledge. So the time allocated for the assessment should be sufficient for all the students to answer all of the questions within reason. So many short assessment can provide the same, if not better, information than a single long assessment. So long should be determined first without regard to the number. So this helps determine how many required for a representative sample of the domain. Second, begin constructing an assessment before a unit begins. So otherwise, there may not be sufficient time to administer a test that meets high quality criteria if we didn't construct an assessment before a unit begins. So the grade level. The age of a student and length of class time are very important and need to be considered. For example, for first grade students, summative assessment usually lasts only 5 to 10 minutes. So later elementary, 15 to 30 minutes. 20 to 30 selected response items. For secondary students, 30 to 50 minutes. 30 to 50 selected response items. By a middle of a high school class, time often determines the maximum length of assessment. Care is needed to not end up with speeded tests. So as a teacher, we need to consider the type of students that we are dealing with and also the type of questionnaires when giving the time duration of the summative test. So the next is the type of item. So there are different types of items measure different cognitive skills and thinking. The time they take to answer varies. So short answer items take longer to answer than multiple choice or true or false questions. So for tests of simple knowledge, high schoolers can answer 2 to 4 objective items per minute. For more difficult items, 1 per minute is typical. So math items may require 2 or 3 minutes for each since math subject is hard and also you need to have a solutions to consider. So using practice items can help determine the time needed. So there are factors affecting assessment length. So first is the grade level, second is the cognitive level, the item type, and the class period type. So in grade level, shorter is for the elementary and longer is for the secondary. In cognitive level, in shorter, higher, more sophisticated, and longer, lower, and less sophisticated. Next is the item type, constructed response or the performance. And the longer is selected response and brief constructed response. So in class period, shorter is short and longer is extended. So the use of published assessment. So this is also one way of planning and summative assessment. So examples of published assessments include ready-made test items for textbooks and texting companies. So this includes the test papers and also the test booklets. This is often provided in digital format. So, published assessment are in tests that have been published by a test publishers. So, banks of items provided by school district central offices and school department offices. Usually prepared for chapter and unit assessments and often aligned with year-end accountability test. So, published assessment may be useful. Items should be reviewed for reliability and validity. This should not be assumed. So, reliability is very accurate. So, both reliability and validity are need to be considered because it is used to evaluate the quality of the assessment. So, first teacher should identify the learning targets. The published assessments may be technically sound but not a good match. So the language and terminology used should be reviewed. It needs to be appropriate and consistent with instruction. In continuation to published assessment, test companies can customize the test once a state standard or target is identified. However, test items may not be of high quality or match well within instruction. So, test company items are probably of higher quality than items prepared by textbooks publishers. So, an obvious advantage of using prepared test items is they can save the teacher a great deal of time. Individual items can be modified if needed. So that would be all. Thank you and have a good day.